So I was alerted that I needed to read the driver's deposition. And let's go. So the driver, Kevin Alexander, says, so it starts off with a question to Kevin Alexander. Conversation that happened in the car, but right now my questions are just about this paragraph that I read. Did you ever hear Mr. Baldoni discuss his personal sexual experience? Roser, objection. Yes. Did that occur during the car ride? Yes. Did you ever hear Mr. Baldoni discuss a porn addiction? No. Did you ever hear Mr. Baldoni try to pressure Miss Lively to reveal details about her intimate life? No. Now I'm going to read from paragraph 92 of the complaint, and again, if you want me to hand it to you so you can read it, you can just let me know. During a car ride with Miss Lively, her assistant and driver, Mr. Baldoni claimed to Miss Lively that he had been sexually abused by a former girlfriend, which he had since shared publicly. I'm going to stop there. Where did the car ride start? Like, what destination did everyone get into the car? The apartment. And without giving me the address, what apartment are you referring to? By that, can you give me a borough? Uptown, downtown? Tribeca. And is that your employer's apartment? Yes. What time did the car ride start? I would say midday. Is that before noon or afternoon? Roughly right before noon. And were you already present at the Tribeca apartment when everyone got into the car? I mean, had you been waiting? Okay, so then it jumps and it starts off with a question. Who told you that? Blake. Did Blake say anything else to you other than, this is Justin? No. Did anyone else get into the car other than Sophia, Blake Lively, and Justin Baldoni? No. Where was Sophia sitting in the car? Front passenger. And where was Miss Lively sitting? Strong side behind me, behind the driver's seat. And that would leave Mr. Baldoni in the rear passenger? Rear passenger behind Sophia. What type of car was it? Escalade. And do you know who owned that vehicle? Walker's Holding. And what is Walker's Holding? That's what I know. It is on the insurance card. It wasn't your personal vehicle? No. And where were you going? I know you picked them up outside the apartment in Tribeca. Do you know where you were heading? To Jersey, to a production office. When was this car ride? Can you give me the month? Springtime 2023, I can recall. Did you make any stops along the way from Tribeca to the New Jersey production office other than traffic stops at lights, stop signs, things like that? No. Did you pick anyone else up along the way? No. How long was the car ride from Tribeca to the New Jersey production office? 20 to 25 minutes. That's pretty good. No traffic that day. Was the radio on during any portion of that car ride? Roser, objection. No. And it was during that period of time where you heard Mr. Baldoni discuss his personal sexual experience. Is that correct? Yeah. Did you hear Mr. Baldoni discuss anything else during that car ride? Yes. Can you tell us what you heard him discuss during the car ride? He was discussing his sexual relations with women. As we were driving, he stated that, and he took my focus off because I can't forget this. You know his sexual relations with women, how he was forced on and he forced himself on women. To me, it was very out of the ordinary to meet somebody and talk like that in a vehicle. That's why it caught my attention. Basically, he kept talking about his sexual relations. And again, like I'm repeating myself, I believe, but he would force himself on women. If they said no, this, that, he would revert back. It was just disturbing. Anything else that you can recall? While we were driving, for some reason, he pointed out his place of living. I'm sorry? His place of living in Jersey City as we were driving. I remember that. He, for some reason, had us pause. And then when we got to the production office, which was down the road from that area, I pulled over, let everybody out. I stated to Blake, I feel very uncomfortable. Something is not right here. I would like to do a background check on him or something. And later to learn that he was the producer in the production of this movie. How did you learn that? Basically, when I brought up his name, everybody was like, he is part of the movie. Well, I shouldn't say it that way. Like Sophia and Blake said, that's the production guy, that movie. Okay, do you recall anything else discussed during that car ride other than what you have already told us? I can go through it again. It just stuck in my head. It is just basically, I'm not asking you to repeat yourself. I'm asking, did you leave anything out? Him having sexual relations, force himself on women, women force themselves on him. It is straightforward, standard, what went on in that car ride. He did ramble on about more stuff, but I didn't pay attention to it because I was focused on driving. It is those key points when someone says, forcing myself on women, women forced on me. I didn't care. It is disturbing to me. You can't forget something like that. Okay. So that is mainly it. Okay, did his tone of voice or volume of speaking remain the same during the car ride, or were there periods of time where his voice was amplified or he started to talk lower or something else? Roser, objection. I don't recall. When in relation to them getting into the car, did he start to discuss these topics that you just raised? Roser, objection. And if it's not clear, was it right away? Was it 5 minutes in? Was it closer to the production? And then it jumps down and they ask, need to be heightened alert or do anything different? Roser, objection. Not that I recall. Schuster, I have nothing else. Roser, I have just a couple of questions before we go off record. Examination by Miss Roser. Mr. Alexander, you testified earlier with respect to a conversation in a car ride with Mr. Baldoni when he said something to the effect of that he forced himself on women. Do you recall that testimony? Yes. Do you recall Mr. Baldoni also sharing during that car ride something to the effect of he would force himself on women when they said no or did not consent? Yes. Mr. Baldoni's statements during that car ride, you found them disturbing, right? Schuster, objection. Yes. You testified this morning that you found Mr. Baldoni's statements in the car ride disturbing. Yes. Why? Who talks like that on your first car ride meeting somebody when other people are present? That's why I can't forget that conversation. Very out of the ordinary. You found it out of the ordinary for Mr. Baldoni to discuss forcing himself on women when they did not consent? Schuster, objection. Yes, and sexual comments that were passed inside a vehicle with other women. You testified also that you expressed to Miss Lively that you did not want her to be alone with Mr. Baldoni. Is that right? Yes. And was that true to what you were feeling at that time? Yes. Why didn't you want Miss Lively to be alone with Mr. Baldoni? Due to the conversation in the vehicle, the stuff he spoke about, sexual relations, forcing himself on women, no consent, or he didn't give consent for a woman to force it on him, is disturbing to me when you are first meeting somebody, and it just stuck out, and that's why I stated what I stated. You stated it was disturbing to you when you first meet somebody. Did you also find it disturbing that Mr. Baldoni would speak about forcing himself on women without consent to Miss Lively at any time, even if it wasn't their first meeting? Schuster, objection. Repeat that. Would you find it appropriate for Mr. Baldoni to speak about forcing himself on women without consent? No. To Miss Lively, even if it wasn't the first time they met? Schuster, objection. No. Roser, nothing further. Schuster, I have a few follow-ups. I'm sorry. Examination by Schuster. You said it was the first car ride. Do you know if this was the first interaction between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, or was it your first interaction with Justin Baldoni? It is my first, and I don't recall if they were before the fact. I know you didn't read the book, but at that time, did you have any understanding of what this book was about? No. Did you have any understanding that it was about domestic violence? And then it leaps down and says, take, following that car ride to ensure that Blake Lively would not be alone with Justin Baldoni. Roser, objection. Repeat the question? Sure. You said that you did not want Miss Lively to be alone with Mr. Baldoni going forward after the car ride, correct? Correct. Roser, objection. What, if anything, did you do to ensure that Miss Lively would not be alone with Mr. Baldoni going forward? Roser, objection. I don't recall. Did you consider yourself a driver/security, or something else? Roser, objection. A driver/security. And as you sit here today, those are the words you recall Mr. Baldoni using, that he forced himself on other women without consent. Yes. Anything else you can recall specifically that Mr. Baldoni said in that car ride? He had women force themselves on him as well without consent. That was part of the car ride, a back and forth scenario. And did you hear any context for why he brought this up? Roser, objection. Not that I know of. Schuster, okay, thank you, sir. Roser, off the record. So what are my observations from that deposition? He was very repetitive, and he kept saying, I know I'm repeating myself, but he would not go beyond the same words. Which I found very interesting. So he had very strict parameters, it seems like, about what he was willing to say and what he was not willing to say. And it seemed like the only thing he was willing to say was what Blake Lively had put in the text message. He was not willing to go beyond that. Which is an interesting thing because it reminds me of Alex Sachs when she was asked about text messages that she said she was only willing to stay within the boundaries of what she texted and nothing beyond that. So the driver/security making sure that he stayed just within the bounds of what Blake Lively texted is interesting to me. Also, the big question I have is, why, if this is the case, why did he feel comfortable enough to have Blake Lively travel on a plane with Justin Baldoni later that month? On a plane with Blake Lively and her children. Now, mind you, we know it was April 2023 because Blake Lively finally told us it was April 2023. She didn't tell us the day in April 2023 that this happened, but he just said this was his first meeting and he wasn't sure if they've met before. But obviously, if that's the case, then her going to fly with him to California, that would mean that had to have happened after the fact. That would mean that it was, and plus that flight to California was literally the last few days of April, and they would have returned back on April 30th. And so he would not be picking them up from the apartment. He would be picking them up from the airport if he was the one even picking them up. You know what I'm saying? So they literally flew on an airplane together with like just the two of them plus her kids. So how unsafe did the security guard really feel Justin Baldoni was? Or is this, is he doing what he needs to do, which is say what he needs to say? I don't think he's lying, and I think that's why he's trying very much to stay within the boundaries of what Blake Lively claims he said, and nothing above that. And he kept reasserting that it was the fact that it was his first meeting and he thought it was weird. It was disturbing. And Roser had to press him to say that it wasn't just because it was the first meeting that he found it odd. Because that was my question too, is like, is it odd because it was the first meeting and he was saying it in public with other people present, or is it because of the content of the conversation? And also, I'm really, really loved how Schuster came back and said, well, if you were so, I mean, he didn't say if you were so concerned, what did you do to try to protect her? How did you make sure she was never alone with him? And he didn't have an answer to that. So it really does drive home the point. Did you genuinely have any real concern for Blake Lively? And it's also very interesting that when they introduced or told him who Justin Baldoni was, they did not say he was the director, the co-star, but rather that he's just a production guy. It's very, very interesting. Anyways, it was a interesting read. I have a lot of questions for the driver, but I think he stayed very close to what he needed to say without actually saying more. It's a very safe testimony or a deposition because it is not necessarily saying anything that isn't true in things that he has said in a TED Talk. So as long as he feels like he is saying these are things that Justin Baldoni would have said. Now, Baldoni obviously refutes the fact that he ever said that he forced himself on other people. So that is a fact issue. But I would have to watch Justin Baldoni's TED Talks to hear how someone could potentially claim that without that being actually what was said, but you could still say that's what was said. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think he's telling his version of what happened as close to what he can legally say without it being perjury. I do think that he did do that.